join into the chat room.
Okay.
So I'm just playing a song, an intro really quick.
Okay.
I'm trying something different. I hope it's working.
What's what you're trying?
I'm using my headset. Alright, I'm just gonna kind of fade out. Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Porthole to Justice. This is Amelia Duran, your host. It is April 12th, 2018. And welcome. It's Lunch with Lotus. Hi, Miss Lotus Justice.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I'm enjoying the weather. Springtime is a good time to contemplate renewal of all things. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
In that respect, good thing we have nature, else it'd be a very ugly place.
Uh-huh. So I've got a little radio drama going on, a soap opera.
I think that probably comes par with people who are trying to move forward. You get to be have your personal character impugned in the media way, and I get attacked by cops and beat upon by attorneys and thrown into prison for a year.
Well,
yeah, I mean it's just par for. I mean, isn't it? Isn't it personal? Being personally attacked, isn't it?
It's par for the course, you know. And if you can't discredit my content, then you must go after my character. Correct?
Especially if you are a woman. Especially if you. Here's what I'm going to tell you about all things when it comes to really bad decorum in public affairs. Where I come from, the South, as I told you, I think I've spoken before, I actually prefer the type of bigotry I would face in the South versus the North, because the South never lied about its position, and it's been misunderstood, and it was actually right in a law sense, in a constitutional sense, in what it was doing. It was exposing a federal corruption and a coup of the banks of the United States, and that's what it was railing against, the banking coup that was occurring.
Did you love my Marguerite? Did you love my Marguerite selfie shot?
Yeah, right. I mean, but you know, when you have a social decorum in the South, I mean, they're in your face with how they are. They're very matter of fact people, and they can justify their thoughts, and they'll say, "Hey, man, I just don't like blacks. I was raised to not like you, but you know, we'll give it a go." You know, but up here in the North, they hate you silently, and then they're in your face being nice, and they backstab you. And they rail against you privately, so they actually conspire. In the South, they're open, and in the North, they conspire, and that's a truth on the face of it in law. That the North is very conspiratorial in that respect when it comes to the false flag of race relations. It was a trade war. But the point being is that when people behave themselves in the South, they have a sense of, okay, whoever this guy is just not a gentleman, and the whole construct of law is based on a person's free will to be a righteous person, and one's belief that you have a duty to behave in a certain fashion in order to promote civil society.
Well,
why?
This person
defaming women or impugning their character, and women don't go around, you know, doing it either to men or anybody. Yeah. You know, people just behave. They have a sense of self-respect in the social decorum. It's called social decorum, and it just seems like it should be obvious when we're talking about living in a better society that people should aver from or shun people who are showing poor social decorum. Now, but I'm bringing this up. I do need to clarify something. Okay, I need to interject, and I'm sorry for interrupting you. No problem. I just wanted to clarify where I find those things repugnant is it just doesn't make for a really good civil decorum. If you guys are in the media and you're supposed to be having a civil debate, the media is supposed to facilitate civility. You know, I know, but
it's part of it is kind of, you know, a soap opera-ish, you know, so let's just keep it going for the sake of keeping it going. But I want to make something clear okay, when I very first met this person, I think I agreed with something wholeheartedly, that an opinion that he had on his show. And I posted, "Will you marry me?" Now, I don't even know this person, right? I've met, at this point, I'd never even met this person. And I didn't say it to be serious. Like, it wasn't meant to be taken literally. Like,
right. Anything, I think that the written word is very confusing when you don't know each other, because humans work from facial expressions, tone. I try very hard not to take immediate offense to things unless someone with particularity.
Well, I just want to clarify where I was coming from.
Doesn't know you. I think that I would, in that character, if someone said, "Will you marry me?" when we're talking about stuff, I would be like, "Yeah." Joking, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and you've never even met. I'd be like, person. "No, I'm already." And then look, right. I've blocked this person months ago. It's over. It's done with. Why do you keep bringing it up on your show? But yeah, I'll take the bait. It's good for my ratings. Keep putting some advertising out there for me.
Okay, well, but it's okay. Here, Amelia. It's a couple things. It's riding your coattails potentially, but is it because he's defaming what you're doing and trying to diminish your character and saying that you're not representing the facts of things? I don't understand why you are the topic of his show, nor that he is the topic of your show. Because to me,
because he can't handle me. He can't handle me.
Handle you. What is it? Okay, so the goal of his show now is to handle you, the goal of your show is to. I just don't get it. I mean, this is the whole point. Let me finish it, because if people who are in the media and in the press are not there to facilitate civil decorum, then they are propaganda. Okay, because civil decorum is when everybody is equal and you're supposed to be doing your job to report the things that everyone needs to know about in full faith and in honor and in credit and all that stuff. You're not supposed to be lying to us. If you're not being candid in a fashion that promotes civility, and you are in the media of any kind, then you are propaganda. You are not the free press. You are a propaganda machine. So that's a fact. I mean, that's just a rational sense. That seems to me to be a rational statement in law, because you're supposed to be promoting the peace and peace to the people. There's a mandate with anything that has the word state in it, even if it's a state franchised organization, that they're supposed to be. It's a interest, So
I let this person go from the network. I let this person go from the network a couple of months ago, I think, and they don't play well with others.
Well, I mean, I don't think you should take it. I mean, I think you should be personally flippant about it, because it's ludicrous. This is stupid. But what I'm trying to do is make it.
Grade. It's like the third grade. It's kind of funny.
And it really is self-serving to you to have this guy. I mean, this is dumb. It serves him no purpose. He's being irrational. I mean, what purpose does it serve for him? And this is where I get this is why people call me. Okay, I was in prison, right? You know what people knew about me? If you came and asked me a question, I'd tell you exactly what the F I thought, okay? And all over the farm, if you wanted an opinion and an assessment of where you were live for real, and they'll give you the whole shit, go ask Lotus. Because I don't care. I don't have a skin in the game. The guy's being irrational. It serves him nothing to do what he's doing.
Well,
he's creating propaganda, showing back, and he's showing himself to be personal. His show is now his personal propaganda machine. That's just stupid.
Okay, well, it's all is what is it? What's the saying? All is fair in love and war. So
absolutely. So now we're at the point where you actually know you're at war. That's good. So here's the deal, though, on this. So and this is the point I made. Why I would even entertain these very sophomoric, stupid circumstances that we are faced with. I mean, but we're attacked all the time. I mean, I have people threaten me and tell me they're going to spill my blood and print. I'm like, you're dumb. Like this is all on the NSA. If I get murdered, I'm going to have all my people look up all the people. It's just dumb. People don't have any sense of social decorum. They vomit from the mouth.
They weasel their way in, and they want to know what your weaknesses are. And then that's what they try to use. That's what they try to use to nick away at you. Crumble the foundation.
It's a predatory type of personality. That's a predatory type of personality.
I know, and the thing is like, dudes don't understand. That's not how I don't respond to that kind of stuff. I don't respond well to that kind of stuff.
No. No woman should be respond well to any man, nor should any man to any woman, to things that impugn their character. Because, like I told you, if you remain silent about things, you are presumed to be willful and consenting per the law of banking that's being imposed upon you right now, the law of Babylonian slave banking. If you choose to be a slave to our oppressions willfully, you're our slave, and we will act as though you are our slave in all ways. So, and if you let people enslave you, call them daddy. I mean, and that's the thing, people need to start getting to these conversations where you're like, no one's my master, but here's the deal. It gets dicey because interpersonal relationships, guess what? Interpersonal relationships between consenting adults is nobody's business but those consenting adults. And those consenting adults really can just about, through personal treaty, do anything they wanted to do, and the state's supposed to stay out of it. Now, when you bring children into that mix, there's a duty there as mother and father of an instrument of trust they've created, because everything that those two, that mother and father do and create, that child is a direct heir of by the law before the state, because God gave him that baby. See, so there's all these instruments of trust that are created. We need to get our interpersonal stuff together and start really calling these people who have bad personal social decorum and are really just sociopathic narcissists and have mental disorders out. Like, that's one topic I want to talk about today. I read an article.
All right.
I read an article.
Trailblaze.
I need to break just a minute, because this is a very important point. Do you remember the young man who was found raping an unconscious woman behind a dumpster, and two men happened upon him and beat him up, and he was raping her and she was unconscious? He had pulled her behind the dumpster. So this guy goes to trial. He clearly gets found guilty. And in fact, for a minute, they were trying to think about charging the two men who pulled him off this woman and beat him senseless before the cops got there, which is what they should have done, which is what any good-blooded man would do when they happen upon things like that. He's lucky, because where I come from, I know men would kill him. Cops wouldn't even, they wouldn't have someone to pick up.
Well, this is meant to be a deterrent for people to just stand there and take pictures with their phones.
It didn't happen. That didn't happen. The outrage was so. This guy is found guilty, and the judge gives a special sentence. Basically, he gets to decide the sentencing. He gives him 6 months in jail for sexually assaulting an unconscious woman. So now there's a recall. The Republic has answered, and there is a recall on this dude. And his response to the backlash he's receiving, he has akin it to the Brown versus Board of Education decision, where they desegregated schools because they determined it was unconstitutional. This man acts, in his words, you need to read through what he said. He's saying he was lenient because raping an unconscious woman is a constitutional right, and the means in which we are imposing fines upon these rapist men who even rape unconscious women, it would be unconstitutional to ruin his life.
Well, this is what I'm talking about, the perversion of law.
He is comparing the backlash. He is comparing the imposition of penalties for raping women and raping unconscious women. If you get beat her over the head, you could assault her too. I mean, he also feloniously assaulted her too. Remember this. So he feloniously assaults. He could be charged with a variety of felonies. They only charge him with one. They give him 6 months in jail because he had a promising sports career in college. Boy, wouldn't you want to be his roommate or be in the same school as that guy? How about have him in a fraternity? What a grand guy you want to going through with no blemish. Because, he's so promising. He rapes unconscious women. Okay, this is what this judge has said about this dude. This is why it's so offensive. And he's in a recall. And he's defending it, claiming that what he did is somehow synonymous or metaphorically equitable to the unpopular decision of requiring blacks and whites to cooperate with each other and to desegregate schools. Meaning, the writing of blacks having potentially a diminished system of education and having their lives diminished, their potentiality of life diminished, he now gets to make it so there's really no penalty to raping an unconscious woman, because he doesn't think that we should unconstitutionally, in his mind, make this young man's life be so diminished that he gets fined for such a thing. I mean, he thought nothing of the victim. All he did was consider perpetuating a promising young white man's, in this case, because all the people in this case were white, a promising young white man. He didn't want to run his life and his potential career as a famous sports player with punishing him committing various crimes of felonies, of repugnant moral felonies upon a non-conscious woman, who two men of the common law who came upon seeing what he was doing were so disturbed by it. This is their testimony. They raged upon him, seeing what he was doing. So he'd already been adjudicated as that he was fairly criminal and should be seen as a repugnant man by fellow men. And this judge gave him 6 months in jail, and now he's defending it by saying it's akin to when we all had to just deal with desegregation. So he's trying to decriminalize rape. That's what they're trying to marginalize rape and say that men who are put in prison for rape and murder and mayhem of babies, and in this, because you and I both know they're doing it with pedophiles and babies. They're doing it with babies too. They're saying when men rape,
they're warring on us using. They're warring on us using these, perversions of the law, and
to make it so that the men and women, because
it's right in your face what they're trying to do. Like it's so right in your face.
That they're trying to decriminalize predatory behavior against innocents. That's exactly what they're doing. Because when they desegregated the schools. Okay, because I grew up in like the second phase of that desegregation of schools. And the school I went to was basically formed as a special type of magnet program to try to deal with the second phase of segregation. Okay, the design of it, the grant for that school was where they would take white kids and bus them to an inner city black school. Okay, so they reversed it in Kansas City, and they made it a magnet school, and they raised the level of education and instituted a college preparatory high school program in the middle of the poor, rundown, blighted area, which was predominantly black. And they bust, so they bust in the highest, IQ white kids to this completely abandoned black school, trying to bring the whole neighborhood up with the hope that they were trying to basically see, how do we bring up a blighted area up in education? So they created a program, bust the whites in, and the whites wanted the programs. They were such good programs. They were college preparatory. Most of the kids would go to Harvard. And what they did is it brought up the educational, so they had like a graduation rate of, less than 50%. And then like 2 or 3 years later, it's actually a very honored high school now. But it literally bringing in a new mindset that have a belief that we're going to go somewhere and we can do this, and knowledge is power, brought up the entire community standards, and the kids that were in the neighborhood started to aspiring and being invested in school again. They saw promise. So it returned promise to a blighted area. So, I grew up knowing this. I'm going to tell you, that unpopular decision at the time was correcting a social ill that was relegating an entire class of, and it wasn't just white, there were white areas that were blighted too, folks. It was just blighting of the impoverished, the disenfranchised, to comply with whatever the government was doing, to whatever. So comparing that to being made to pay for your criminal, repugnant offenses towards an unconscious innocent, be it a woman or anybody, that's not the same. He's not being deprived.
Hence, I digress. Social decorum.
It's like he's being deprived of his right to rape when we penalize him. You know, and that's ridiculous. And here's how I'm going to tell you how this guy's really, really bad. This. Remember, I've told you, attorneys have a banking degree, a business masters at best, and that the distinction is why I say they're not lawyers is because lawyers are people learned in the law, right, with jurisprudence and PhDs in law. This guy's really in trouble because he's got a Stanford law professor. I think it's Michelle. I think it's Michela, Michele. I don't know if it's a female or male at this point with that name, Dauber, who one of the leaders of the recall effort pushed back against this guy's comments. This guy's name is Persky, by the way, Judge Persky. I don't know if they ever give us his first name.
Lotus, I want to announce something really quick. At the end of the show, I have a very important announcement. I don't want to forget.
Good.
Okay?
I will let you know. So she tweeted, sentencing a privileged elite recruiting athlete sex offender to probation is not a courageous decision. It is business as usual. That's key right there, folks. The fact that he would say that just shows how tone deaf and clueless he is about what he did and the impact it had on women. This is a law professor. So this is a lawyer, guys, telling a dude that has a master's in business administration that decision was a business decision to try to decriminalize rape, pedophilia, and crimes that anybody, men or women, but in this case a man, or the state, do against the innocent. So there's some key things there.
Well, here's the thing. We have this truth that I'm going to interject with my announcement now because I want to announce that I launched with Lionel Anderson of NWO Freedom Fighters. We partnered on a page. It's called Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. It's on Facebook and YouTube. And, we're just...
When we get our forum set up, we'll partner with you on that.
Yeah, so we're like really trying to bring these truths to light and empower the people. And, it's no coincidence. It's no coincidence they're in a mad rush to legalize this criminality, this criminal behavior. They're perverting the law. They're people, once they want to disarm the people, they're pushing to disarm the people, because once people really comprehend the truth that's right in front of their face and get over and start thinking in terms of globalists and, versus humanity, that this is a humanitarian issue. Once there's...
Yeah, it's an international banking repugnancy. It's just repugnant.
Once people truly understand, though, Lotus, they'll understand why they're in a mad rush to disarm us.
Well, someone IM'd me on one page I was on and said, I just read this article that said that the king says he owns us and, well, we're still his sovereign. I just laughed. I was like, well, I'll tell you what, let's just ask America if they believe that. And whatever argument they would throw, I could throw back, and I can show the instruments, that say you don't own us at all. You don't own anything. You're constructively a fraudulent criminal RICO, but that's a different story. Who make people bond their babies. You get your own servants to bond our baby, the babies that you conquer, so you can eat them. I mean, it's a machine. It's really Moloch. I love the movie Metropolis, the black and white, silent one where the woman is edified into ex machina, And there's a scene in there that I love that is all symbolism, because I understand that the world is based on signs, that there are signs in art, and this is why people, create art that produce the signs, and they're universal in a lot of ways. And so in this movie, there's this scene where this machine has a mouth, and it's just like Moloch. And so the movie is about the sacrifice of humanity, and it's where they give themselves to be slaves to states that they think that they're creating, and it makes them great that they can create these great states, but then the state becomes a monster, and it starts to eat the people, and that's the Ouroboros. But it's going the wrong way. Are we the tail or the head of the snake? And the fact is, we're the head. We're not the tail. We're all things, but we're the head that created the snake, and we can eat its tail. And so it's the kind of thing where you're reversing the bar. And people don't understand that we're just really in this place of good and badness. Stop behaving badly. Just stop. People who are openly behaving badly in any regard should be shunned, because we need to.
Yes.
We can't be
shunned. I say shunned.
Trying to normalize. They're trying to normalize raping. They're trying to normalize the eating of innocents and the raping of women and the raping of innocents by state instruments.
Yes. My God.
Or states are ordering that innocents can be raped. You have a situation where the state just, in this case, a young woman, the state basically said, I don't give a shit. I would have used another word if I thought I'd get away with it. Whether I don't give a shit what he did to you, look,
we have to.
Yeah, ain't nothing about this. You'll get over it. You'll get over it, girl. You got it. You got this. He's just being repulsive in his disregard.
We have to limit the expletives.
Absolutely. So, but the dude is just repugnant. There's a repugnancy there. That's not law. That's disgusting. Law is a shield to the infant, the insane, and the infirm. He's not a shield to privileged white boys from having to pay the fine, the personal sacrifice, the pound of flesh for having raped an unconscious woman. That's what, he's saying, his pound of flesh is 6 months in jail. Because his crime is supposed to be...
and then the other mind-numbing question is, why do pedophiles... I'm not going to even ask it right now. I have another announcement, Lotus. I have another announcement. My YouTube video about the whole Q scam and the Hillary Clinton snuff film has 21,000 views.
That's awesome.
And I just want to say...
21,000 who could want to hear what I say about law.
I can't even believe it. I mean, but hey, people... That's awesome. That means you're awake. You're tuning in. You're you're hearing the truth. That's awesome.
Hopefully, they can hear through it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they can. So we also have some other good news. There's some good. So this judge needs to be gone, and a superior in the law, a law professor is a super jurisdiction to this schmuck, even though he's a judge, because law professors teach these schmucks. So this Stanford law school professor, who has declared this guy just basically repugnant, has determined his fate. This guy needs removed. So that's clear, but I want people to understand and see through what he was actually promoting in his policies of lenient sentencing for a repugnant, immoral man. And then the other thing is there's this great ruling out of the Indiana Supreme Court, and I did not hear about this until this rehearing decision came down, but it's called Gunderson versus State. Now, the importance of the Gunderson versus State is the Gundersons, from what I understand, apparently wanted to privatize the land that they had, basically the shoreline, okay? The beachfront. They had property on
this case in Malibu? Wasn't this in Malibu?
Well, this is in Indiana. I don't know if it's in Malibu. I'm just saying this is in.
Yeah, they have another case in Malibu.
I'm sure it happens in many states. Okay, so these people wanted to privatize. Well, apparently the ruling had been before, and so they wanted to give like public access, but they wanted to kind of have tenancy rights and like basically make it so people couldn't like sit in front of the land that they thought they should have because they're next to the ocean, right? And the Supreme Court basically said no, that access to the shore, were the shoreline, which actually is called the fringe of the water, thus the fringe on the Admiralty flag. So the fringe around the Admiralty flag is the shore fringe, and it's where the Admiralty law meets the common law. That's where the water.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
That's actually what it is. So what they said is that the shoreline, the people have the right to the access to the shore up to the shoreline. They basically have public right to the beach, and so they and that is the purpose of the state is to protect the public right of way to that shoreline, and that it is to basically rule on the benefit of the people versus private use. Okay, so there's two important things there, because they also then define that this right that the state to control this as public fair access to all the shoreline, the fringe, which would mean the concurrent jurisdictions. So the fringe, the shore, that little white water that comes up, that little shore fringe, that's called the fringe of the water, where the water laps onto the beach on a regular basis, but is not water, is the shore, okay? And then where the white water is the fringe. So that's supposed to be available to all people. And that fringe extends to now they just redefined it to the ordinary watermark, okay? Ordinary high watermark. Remember I told you the Admiralty jurisdiction extends to the high watermark. That's original. But now that they have the ability to flood lands and move rivers, they've now determined, in this case, if the word is truly used, is ordinary, they've defined it back to its original purpose, which is where the water would naturally flow in high water. Not in 100-year floods, okay, normally on a daily basis. So they have confirmed that Admiralty law stops at the ordinary high water mark and at the shoreline, the fringe. And that everything to that is supposed to be public access, not controlled by a singular monopoly. So from my mind, in the law, this is an incredible ruling. And I think it's very interesting. I'm going to research it some more because that's that is a true Admiralty ruling. Now, which side of the bar we're on from it, another story. But people need to remember Gunderson v. State in Indiana Supreme Court, because I think that was a little bone they just tossed out to us for us to use as a citation, as to define. Because here's the deal: if that's where they're defining the water, where the public right of way is, and all things are public on the land is basically what they're saying. You have to understand that. That's not, other than what is defined private. What is not private is public, not state. Okay, so there's a variety of things they've proven by this cause. Then how are they able to bring Admiralty law on the land and be seizing our children with Admiralty law? Because, see, we have American Admiralty and British Admiralty, and we're being banked by a British banking Admiralty law. That's slave trade law. That's the law. That's the banking that established the colonization of all these lands and the enslavement of all the of all these tribes and native tribes all over the world.
That's sort of what I'm trying to reveal in this new group is to get people to understand this concept more and be more informed about it. So I just want to invite you and encourage you to post and interact in the new anti-human trafficking.
Yeah, I did see that, and I was like, oh, that great. That ties in with the task force that we were talking about.
Yeah. So, and I also want to get on that petition that we were creating.
Yeah, it says we got to create this. I mean, it's me and my source, and it's just really about us getting. We've talked about it on 2 occasions. So it's just a matter of getting together and actually scripting it out now. So,
okay.
We'll get, I don't rush these things. I never do. They come as they come.
Yeah.
That's the strange thing. We now have the 6th and the 7th circuits. And this is what I'm going to tell you about Clay's case. The case about Clay and Ray is so repugnant. I could sit down any number of people in a general body and tell you what happened to these people and present.
I cannot wrap my head. Oh my! I'm frustrated. I cannot understand. They will not even give Lotus and Ray proof of life, folks.
Kidnapped a kid out of a police station. Okay. CPS kidnapped a kid out of a police station who was conveyed to a police station by a bystander at an arrest scene at the order of the police. So a policeman ordered a bystander of an arrest site with family on the way. This is like a town that's not even 2 miles away. The family was 2 blocks away, literally living 2 blocks away from where this happened. On their way to an arrest scene, like 15 converging upon this time. Like by the time the police station has the mom in the police station, there are like 15 family members sitting at the front of the police station, picking up a kid who was brought to the police station by not a family member and not a cop, though the child was arrested by a cop. You know, it's like a conveyance, man. It's like we're going to steal the kid, trover it. It's like stealing a car and then selling it, and then you steal a car, you give it to your chop shop or your dealer who sells it off, and then going, hey, you know, I can't be held liable for what happened to that car. It's not in my possession no more. And if I don't have possession of it, I didn't steal it. I mean, that's really what they've done.
And that's what they're doing with jurisdiction. That's what they're doing with jurisdiction.
And they're doing it because of the standing of law that we're coming in, because they know they are so going to get it. But it's so repugnant. There's no reason for them to be behaving as overt that they are in the judiciary. They dismissed a federal habeas by Rucker-Feldman after merging it in the mother's case, saying that 3 causes of action that we had there were all the same subject matter, and then parsing out another one. Like they literally played little jockey with cases, transferred them. They dismissed a habeas of a child in a federal case that had been in. We were arguing, the magistrate did a response, and I had responded back, and they had no argument. They transferred it and dismissed it under Rucker-Feldman. They dismissed a child's habeas case under Rucker-Feldman, a federal case. Then when we take the same case to Indiana and we're made to bring it as an independent action instead of an appeal, and this is the direct cause of action challenging the actual termination of parents' rights, where we were even denied a transcript or discovery without declarations of papyrus or getting an attorney were her options to get those. To get standard discovery, they told her she had to either file papyrus or get an attorney because they weren't going to give it to me, her lawfully designated advocate, or even to her. She had to go surrender to their jurisdiction. Get it? So we were denied even the ability to appeal that. We have to be made to do an independent action in Indiana, even though by the cause of action we had every right to transfer it there as an appeal. So they made us file a federal lawsuit against these people, and then they dismissed that for Rucker-Feldman. I mean, these people, they're repugnant. If you understand the courts, what they've done is repugnant. It's obstructionist. It's standard obstruction of business, obstruction of justice. It's tampering with witnesses. It's perpetuation of kidnapping. And you've got 2 circuit courts. And you know what? Not one judge in a circuit court has put their name on everything. We got clerks. We don't even know if these clerks have licenses to practice law. Ever did? We looked up the name of the clerk for the 6th, and the only one we could find that ever had a license in the nearby tri-state area had her license revoked. I don't even know how we find out what the qualifications of these clerks are. And they're not supposed to be practicing law as a clerk. That's specifically
you know, I know this goes for Los Angeles County, but I've been told, okay, that at Monterey Park, most of the clerks are directly or indirectly related to the judges or the commissioners.
The commissioners of the coup? Well, there's what I'm going to tell you. I can't imagine a state being so...
even the family services... Wait. I need to continue with that. 1 second, I had to interject. I'm sorry. Even the, family services that are provided in the drug and alcohol counselors, all of them are either former social workers or they're related in some way to the commissioner, judges, or through their fundraising their online websites where they They have their fundraisers, their non-for-profits.
Well,
go ahead.
People have to about the construct, and this is where we're at. Imagine, unless they go in a, like a science fiction or, dystopian future movie, you have an empire who is, think they're the rulers of the world, and they come to these places, and go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say really quick, people need to start filing information requests on these clerks. They receive money. They receive money from our tax dollars to provide transcripts to people with low income. Okay, and in the lower courts, in the juvenile courts, they do not afford the parents their transcripts. They have to pay cash.
That is our central argument. That is the gravamen of our argument. Okay, it would have only cost. You think I couldn't afford the cost of the discovery and the cost of the transcript? But here's the deal: they don't have a court reporter that they're mandated by statute to produce. I'm not going to hire some subcontractor out to dictate some potentially adulterated, non-notarized, non-lawful CD of the recording of the conversation you had in your little private jury. Literally, they had a private bar union hearing. They wouldn't let anybody any bar union member of the county could walk into the hearing about my son's, my wife's termination of her custodial rights to her son, but not one person other than her and or people called as witnesses by her could walk in as a family member. The kin and kith have a right to all those hearings. All of the family of that child are real parties of interest in federal seizures. Everybody. Yeah, and in Georgia, I had to go shun an attorney who tried to tell me and her client in front of me, so I couldn't be quiet about it, that grandparents aren't real parties of interest in child custody cases. I said, ma'am, that's not the truth. That's a misstatement of law. She goes, who are you? I'm like, well, we proceeded, and I said, that's not true. Federal statutes have guidelines for that. And these people who are being abused by their grandparents taking their kids, I get that too. Attorneys are going to milk whatever feud flesh and blood have. They are grifters of our vices. Okay, they make money on our sins against each other. That's what they do. And this type of milking behavior, this tithing, you're paying a tithe for your behavior, comes from the Roman Empire coming in and trying to make they want you to be good Roman citizens, so they want to meld your mind. And they make you tithe for certain behaviors. And they impose a banking, and you pay that as a banking structure. That is their empire. They're a militaristic, capitalistic, monotheistic, fascist empire. And that bank in babies and slaves, moving people about for commodities, even like you have to think about when there's guest workers, like the guest in Europe. Europe was blighted after the war, so they shipped in guest workers and gave them these special, visas and stuff, like almost lifetime visas. So these guest workers come in and provide services. Lots of services. The labor that the Germans are too good, and I'm going to talk bad about Germany. I will, because it's to their face. I'd say it too. They have really good German pens. They're too good to do the jobs. They don't want those menial jobs. But guess what? The Turkish will come in and work their butt off, and they'll start a restaurant, and then they'll have kids. When I went to Germany the last time, Germany was arguing about how it didn't have to allow those children who were born in Germany, of those guest workers who had special visas, German citizenship. And I was like, you all are messed up in the head. Because basically what they just did is brought in a system of indentured servitude to their state that never earned any state rights, never garnered any reward for their labors into the industry. It was just basically servitude. That's ridiculous. You have to offer those children citizenship. You don't have to offer their parents. But if you brought them into the guest,
and right now, the way that the courts are, there is no remedy really. There is no remedy really in the courts for parents.
Because they're acting like they're serving justice and they're serving banking. That's the problem. They're a business. They are not law. They are masking themselves of law to impose moral tithe. You are being made to pay an indulgence.
Hence, my selfie for today's show is the Marguerite. I like that.
It's society based on indulgences, but here's the deal: we know it's not truly on true sin. It'd be different if they were making us pay indulgences on things which were really criminal. They're trying to actually make it so you don't have to pay anything but a pecuniary interest or a small tithe for raping babies and raping unconscious women. They're letting predators. I posted something about how they're they want to that pedophiles are sickness, not a criminal.
That was published in the New York Post, by the way.
Right, and one of my peeps on my Facebook page says, well, that's ridiculous. Murderers are clearly mentally ill. We don't want, and they are criminals. And see, that's what people are saying. In common law, it is assumed if you commit a crime like murder or rape that you are mentally ill, because a righteous, rightly spirited man who is mentally right would not do such a crime. But even though you are deemed mentally ill, because in common law, we perceive that if you're mentally ill, you willfully choose to do that evil deed. You are spiritless. There's something else wrong in you. You're either spiritless or you have, and now we know it could be an emotional ailment, but people think, see, the ruse of medicine is to make you not realize there actually are spiritual reasons for things too, and that there is divinity to the nature, and not all things that are cures come from man. In fact, very few things come from men are cures. They just stir the pot for their own lucre. That's what these people do. They're pot stirrers. They stir the pot between husband and wife, boyfriend and baby mama, grandmother and daughter, and they come in and they go, hey, I don't like her. Do you? What if I told you if you paid me, I could make her pay blah, blah, blah. I got a whole big private little judiciary over here. Mm-hmm. That's what they do.
And that's hence targeted individuals.
And our personal malfeasance.
Targeted individuals, another topic on my show.
When people are behaving where they are trying to facilitate divisive behavior, like spiritless stuff, just like mean-spirited, defaming, impugning. And again, I'm going to talk about this when it comes to this Trump thing about McCain. Okay, what I read in that is that something was said about McCain in a private meeting that should have not been conveyed to anybody, and it was conveyed third party. Now, the third party said it was a joke, and so the press is reporting now that it was a joke. They didn't hear it, so you have the press reporting something as hearsay and method that was a joke, and you don't know the context. Let me tell you something. If those were attorneys in there, that was a confidential conversation, folks, and that was a violation of federal law. And if the press is jumping on it, mischaracterizing it, they're propaganda. Okay? What I hear is a national leak, because that type of private, privy conversations where people can be candid about it and then have someone potentially mischaracterize the content of that, I know why the White House isn't speaking of it, because they're looking for who is a criminal. Because that is propaganda, folks. That's propaganda. That's hearsay. That is from a source that probably committed a federal crime. And now you got the press jumping on it, characterizing it as a joke.
And you know what's worse is we have the press, we have the mainstream media. They're propagandizing both sides. Hearsay. Like, they're not supposed to
hearsay, okay? Because whether something was said as a joke, that implies people in the room laughed. That it was presented, we all did, okay? Remember comedy and comedy, C-O-M-E-D-Y, C-O-M-I-T-Y? What I can imagine was said was, well, he's not really a factor in this because he's probably going to be dead soon. I mean, I could see that as a matter of fact statement coming from my mouth. Are we going to take what he's saying into this? Besides the fact, people understand McCain is a songbird. He is a mouth for treason. The man should have been hung after he came home, from all accounts in the press and the law and the facts.
And as far as I can see, the FBI, Comey, he should have been in jail a long time ago for being complicit with the human trafficking.
There are three people right now. There are at least two people right now who openly, by the law, Comey and John Kerry, need to be tried for treason. That there's nothing. If they don't get tried for treason, this country is going to get really ugly. Because that means that there's a completely... You guys are down here stealing babies from impoverished drug addicts that are drug addicts half the time because they're trying to make a living because their man ain't around because you got him in prison for trafficking the drugs to make a living for his family because your state has failed and it minnows and it eats off the disenfranchised for bonds that you sell as the treasury bonds. People don't understand that you got a whole world economy based upon eating our babies and the weak and the people who have fallen through the cracks that are starving and crying and dying. It is a holocaust upon the family of the weak and the poor in this country. And we got traitors that aren't even going to get tried, that are going to go to foreign countries and undermine the interests of the American people and our state, using their old instruments of where they got their hook from working for us on our dime? Oh no. That's criminal. That's the highest crime. I want to start seeing those people put on trial and put in prison the way they're eating our babies and stealing our kids and putting our young mothers in prison time after time after time. Every time they let her back out, she's knocked up. They take the baby while she's in jail for her addiction. Put her back out with no more resources. She gets knocked up. They put her to prison. They take her baby while she's in prison. I mean, people have no idea, Amelia. This is disgusting what's happening.
Well, I did an entire show with Safe International, with John Meekins, and yeah, you recall, and we talked about that case where the attorney was being sued because she was, selling like 5 babies a month from these women that were in jail. Like it's a cycle. There is resources in jail for men. They can get skilled training. They can get skilled training for jobs in prison. For women, there is nothing. There is Bible and there is a high school diploma. There is no like getting job skills for women in prison. It's you get pregnant, you go through this cycle, and they give you like a couple $1,000 for the baby. The attorney does $3,000, which is just enough to get an apartment. Okay, these women go out with no skills. They get out of prison with no skills. And then they, what ends up happening? They get pregnant again. They lose the money for the apartment because they don't have steady income.
It's back to the only trade, the only skill they have that they can get paid for. That's tricking. They trick, or they go back to hustling drugs on the street because they got to pay for their kids or they got to pay to eat.
And these attorneys are just they're taking these babies hand over fist. And they're rehoming them for money. How is that different?
It's slave trade.
Yeah.
It's just a really, really big work camp. It's a really, really big gulag. That's what it is. We're not a ghetto, we're a gulag. The United States of America and the territories have become gulags. They're work camps. They're work camps for fascist bankers who've even talked our own people into joining these fascist jackboot.
These people are protesting for their rights to be taken away, for more freedoms to be taken away.
That's what I understand. I don't understand the necessity of the violence. I am not going to subscribe to the fact that war is tolerable anymore. I know a really good way to end war. Shut all the banks off in the region that's being disgusting. Don't even let them bank.
I mean, and that's another thing. Okay, a division of CPS on every military base globally that we have, then contriving staged events manipulating the economy in that region to where the people are poor and impoverished.
They're slave states to a banking empire that eats on them, and there's a necessity to eat. At a certain time,
they harvest the children. They stage these events, a chemical, a weapon, or what have you, and then the parents willingly give over their children, to Red Cross or one of these charities, thinking that they will see their children again, that they can help till they get situated, and they're never seeing these children again.
I get it. I know these things. I've seen it. And I'm going to tell you the most repugnant thing. But see, here's the deal. I understand that men are malfeasant and women are malfeasant in their nature, that we can tend to want to conquer all that we see, particularly if we feel stressed or, in the need of something, or narcissism, even as mental illness. But I don't subscribe that the state should be an instrument which sanctions the same repugnant behaviors of individual men in systems of state. What you have is a system of state that is being controlled, manipulated, dominated by people who have mental illnesses, that are narcissistic psychopaths who feel that there are certain rights that are unalienable to them, and that is the ability to rape, mayhem, and war. And that has been the structure of the world mental banking business model for thousands of years. Go into an area, conquer it, overlay a commercial construct, get them to work their own land and sell their own resources to you, rape them of the resources through unequitable contracts, unequitable business structure, imprison them through your tithe structures and taxations, where you tax their own activities upon their own land of their own things. And you think about that. They're taxing us for our activities on our...
We're at a historical moment in time. We are literally entrenched in a war that we've already won. We've already won back in history one time before.
I said to the woman, I was like, well, I guess the king comes over here and tries to impose his will on America, we'll beat him again.
I have to laugh, otherwise I'm going to cry because,
ludicrous and obvious. Okay, can I just point out something that should be obvious? Let me see if this is one of the obvious things. So I just read an article today where NASA plans to send a helicopter to Mars, okay? And I thought, are they talking about a jet helicopter? Surely they're not talking about one with propellers, right? So I look at the video, and it's really a picture of a propellered helicopter traveling across the surface of Mars. And I said, whoa, okay. Propellers need lift, and the atmospheric pressure of Mars is like 0.6% of Earth's atmospheric pressure. So that helicopter blade has to move like 14 times faster just to move. I'm like, there's no atmosphere in Mars. How's it going to fly around on Mars? And I'm thinking, I'm going off about the ludicrous physics of lift on a planet with no atmosphere, right? This is what the press is telling Americans and the world. Look, up Mars. Oh, my God. Anybody who doesn't understand how that is clearly has to be a fake or a clear indication of we're going, we lie to you. How you going to get lift on a plane with no atmosphere, man? I got to see this, right? Oh, my God. So Ray goes, I think you should write a letter to NASA and tell them the error of their ways. I mean, this is the world we live in, folks. This is the world we live in. You walk out of my back door. Okay, I don't know what shape the Earth is. I don't even know where Earth is. I don't know what Earth is. I know the people in it, some of them. I don't know all things about it. I've seen pictures, okay? I've been to some of them, okay? But I don't know everything, right? But I look up in the sky and I go, If my globe is round and I have spit through the universe, why have I seen the Big Dipper for the last 50 years in the same, place?
Oh my God.
I'm like, so I want everyone, if they ever find any report back about how the helicopter flew across the Mars desert landscape with no atmosphere, with propellers, please make sure you let Amelia know so she can send me the
To be continued, folks. This should be
the business of that.
Yes, these questions shall be answered, and the link between man and monkey, I have no idea.
You want to drop a helicopter with whatever scientists developed this grant from, like, the high height of the atmosphere, let his blades whirl and just see if he can. You're just going to drop like a brick. Those propellers, they have to be like 14 times. They have 0.6% of our atmosphere. Like we have like 14 pascals or something. You have to have atmosphere, folks, to get lift on a bent blade. That's how planes move. That's what makes them fly in the air. It's called lift and drag. You don't get those things when there's no atmosphere.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It feels so good to laugh, though. I love it.
I hope that it's fake. I really hope it's a parody. I mean, but I read, oh God, this can't be fake. I hope it is. But again, it's that, okay, remember in the Bible it says, only the righteous shall see. Okay? There's so much, you're supposed to look at stuff.
Lotus, some of this stuff is just, it's humorous. I mean, did you see the left, the Me Too movement? All of a sudden they're like getting boisterous again, and they're saying that we have to ask babies permission to change their diapers.
What?
Yeah, the consent. You have to ask the baby consent first before you change their diaper.
I will give you that if when you don't change your poopy diaper, you're going to sit in a room that's 2 by 2 until you change your diaper. I want to smell you. So
oh my God. Together. Oh, okay. Well, listen, it's been fun while it lasted. I have to.
Your old consent. Oh my gosh.
It's been great. Lunch with Lotus.
That argument right there actually promotes pedophilia, to be honest with you, that children can give consent. Children cannot give consent to such things.
There's some pretty really, like...
We're supposed to well past diapers. So that's the point of pedophiles. Children cannot give consent. They can't give consent to contract in any way. That's the law. So the birth certificate is an implied trust document. It's a fraud upon the face. The child could not consent to it, and neither did the mother and father. So that's the point of the fraud of the birth certificate. That's a law of equity. The law of equity says children cannot consent to contract. And
minors cannot contract with the state either.
Can't contract at all, not even privately, not at all. They cannot contract. They cannot give consent. They're considered wards to somebody with the inability to reason and logic a decision. That's the problem with childhood, with parental alienation, because the child is being manipulated to act in a certain way and to groom consent. Children can't consent. That's what the guardian ad litems are failing. The guardian ad litems, if they see a child being manipulated into unusual statements that a 10-year-old should never have, then that child is being groomed to produce an implied consent of something. I don't like my daddy, because he does this. These are not normal things. Children tend to love their parents, okay, their mom and dad. So it's this grooming children for implied consent. There is no such thing. Children cannot consent for anything for themselves. So the state and the mother and the father,
that in there is the whole issue of the law.
That is law. That's the law of equity. The law of equity says, and it goes further and says in the law of equity, if you willfully contract with someone you know to be a minor, your act is constructive fraud. That's what it says about that. So when the state knowingly contracts with minors and babies upon their incarnation to bond slave them, that is actually an act of implied of a constructive fraud. So the state is constructively defrauding upon the face by the law and the frauds of equity every birth certificate. So you have a whole system of government and world banking based upon something that is a maxim of law is unlawful.
Well, I want to continue the conversation on banking with you because that's a very interesting subject, and I think it's one that I want to cover more. Listen,
well, thanks for the afternoon talk.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for coming on to the Porthole to Justice.
I get some subscribers. I think my content's really difficult. You have to kind of have already gone down the rabbit hole to be able to handle what I teach on my YouTube channel. But I actually have a YouTube channel.
Proverbial rabbit hole, but the deprogramming.
Right.
You have to go through the other side. The truth. Yeah. Behind the veil.
Like, particularly, it's easier for Christians the way I do. But I actually have people who are non-Christians that come onto my site and say it's very easy to understand. So, so anyway, just look me up on YouTube, Lotus Justice. It's Madly Arts. It's my Star Crash is my handle there. But I have lots of deprogramming and educational videos where I give you my humble opinion about the way things are, and I put them out there for people to become educated. So.
Awesome. Totally I love it. And I love it, guys. She's got a great YouTube channel, and it's called Lunch with Lotus, right?
This series is, this is an entire series, but I also have Pedophagry Paradox. I have something like 80 videos on there. I mean, I have quite a lot of videos. And I don't even have near all of ours on there because I don't always have time to rip them, but I've been starting to do that. But yeah, I got a big YouTube channel.
Because I get to talk to you personally.
I really funny. I need to talk to you about funding because to the point we're going to be going probably international with these claims, and there's a lot of people that I think we're going to be walking with in that cause, and it gets to be about the money and travel. May even have to go to Rome. I mean, to file a cause of action. We're not sure yet, so we're not stopping. I'm taking this I'm going to give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Let me put it that way. And
yeah, we've already made our pact. We're not giving up, right? Never give up.
Absolutely not. Never give up, never forget, never give in, never forget.
All right. Well, listen, it's been awesome. Everyone, this has been another episode of Porthole to Justice Off the Cuff. You can subscribe to the show on Spreaker.com. It's absolutely free. All it takes is your email address and your name. And you can join in the live chats on the show. I'm on Facebook. I interact more on Facebook. Check out the new group, Anti-Human Trafficking, NWO Freedom Fighters with Lionel Anderson and myself. And start educating yourself and empowering yourself and sharing it with your family and friends. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, namaste, y'all.